Calling all detectives.
A typewriter, buried treasure, and a baby's fingerprints. Those are the exhibits on this page from my casebook. The casebook of Jerry Browning, private detective. By now, yours truly, Jerry Browning, private detective, should realize that no case runs according to type. But the typing I was concerned with one Tuesday morning was strictly of the hunt and peck variety. As I pulled the paper from my machine, my office door opened and a tall, red-headed fellow walked in. He said his name was Robert Hahn.
Mr. Browning, I want to work for you. Be your secretary. I can do your typing, keep your books, file, handle all the office routine.
I grinned. You sure walked in at the right moment. Who sent you?
Nobody sent me. Just figured maybe I could talk myself into a job. I'll work cheap. How about it, Mr. Browning? I need the job and you need my services.
He had something there. And one look at the stack of reports still waiting to be done turned the trick. Okay, hon, we'll try it for a week. On one condition. You tell me your real reason for wanting to work for me. He hemmed and he hawed, but I cut through all that. Look, you have some other reason for coming here. I don't guess you've got any romantic ideas about getting into this cops and robbers business, because you're no kid.
That's what you think. I am a kid, a regular captain kid. Mr. Browning, how would you like to share in buried pirate treasure?
When I hired a secretary, I learned that what he really wanted was to unearth pirate treasure. While my new employee set to work on my reports, he told me that he'd been an ardent student of secret codes and pirate lore for years, and that he was sure he knew the hiding place of Captain Kidd's loot.
And, Mr. Browning, it's just 10 miles out of town at the bend in the river. There are 3 oak trees at the site. I know that's the place.
Okay, I'll investigate. But why haven't you done it already? Hahn gave me a sheepish smile.
Mr. Browning, I'm afraid to take it on my own. A couple of guys have been following me. I lost them before I came here. Frankly, I'm a little scared.
Okay, so I went for it. I told Hahn to stay in the office. All he had to do was straighten out the mess on my desk and wait for a letter from George Dwight, the lawyer. Then I drove to the river bend. I found the 3 oaks, all right, only they were uprooted by a huge bulldozer.
Can't come in here, Bob. No bridge going through, so get.
I got, but not before I asked my question.
Treasure chest? Are you kidding? What we hit here has been nothing but hard pan and rock all the way down.
I went back to the office. Bob Hahn was busy at one of the file cabinets. Hahn, I've got news for you. There's no buried treasure out by the river. What's more, there never was any. Hahn took a deep breath.
But I was so sure. But I've still got a job with you, haven't I, Mr. Browning?
Yeah, I guess so. Did that Dwight letter come in?
Yes, sir. About 10 minutes after you left. Here it is, sir.
He handed me a fat envelope, neatly slit along one edge.
I opened it, but I didn't remove the contents. Looked sort of confidential.
It is. I walked around my desk reading George Dwight's letter and studying the enclosures. Vaguely, I heard Hahn mumbling about the lost treasure. Then suddenly I looked at him, and then back to what had been in the envelope. Forget about pirate treasure, Hahn. Here's your fortune. Look at this photograph.
Why, it looks like me. That's a picture my mother had taken when I was about 8 years old. What does it mean, Mr. Browning?
It meant plenty. I sat Bob Hahn down and grilled him like I've never done to a suspect. I found out the facts of his life, learned about the tragic deaths of his parents. And what it all came down to was that sitting right in my office, working as my employee, was the long-lost heir of old Amos Gardner, the man represented by my client, George Dwight, the lawyer. Mr. Dwight didn't answer his phone, either in his office or at his apartment. So instead of wasting time trying to locate him, I drove Hahn straight to the huge Gardner house.
You say this is my grandson? My little daughter Ruth's boy? Come close, lad. Let me see you. When Ruth married Theodore Hahn, I wanted to have no more to do with her. But that was a long time ago. Maybe I can make it all up through you.
It was a touching reunion scene, and Bob played his part magnificently. He grasped the old man's hand firmly.
Let me make it up to you, Grandfather.
I left them there discussing plans for their joint future. To me, it meant losing a secretary after less than a day. And it meant something else. Trouble. It took a while, but I finally located George Dwight at the Lakeview Hospital.
It was a hit-and-run case. We're doing everything we can for Mr. Dwight, but he's not likely to pull through.
Can I see him for just a second?
I'm sorry, he isn't conscious, Mr. Browning.
I nodded. And I got another idea. Dr. Mitchell, could I possibly photostat something from the hospital files?
Certainly.
I got what I wanted. A photostat of a baby's fingerprints, and then drove back to the Gardner house, asked to see Bob Hahn. Bob, I got some real documentation from Lakeview Hospital here. Your fingerprints as a baby. All we have to do is compare them with yours now, and... Hahn took the photostat and accidentally dropped it into the fireplace. I didn't try to rescue the paper. That meant nothing anyway. Instead... At police headquarters, Hahn's confession was thorough and sickening. He admitted he'd done secretarial work for a firm of legal typists, came across the documents George Dwight was sending me, and figured out an angle for latching on to the Gardner wealth. He couldn't substitute for the original papers, so he decided to intercept them at my office, talked himself into a job, and sent me off on a wild goose chase after buried treasure. Then to complete the job, he tried to murder the lawyer, the only man who could have known that fake documents and photograph had been substituted for the real ones. It took me 6 months to find the real Gardner heir, but I finally located him in the Army Air Force. As for the man who called himself Bob Hahn, the lawyer recovered and gave the testimony that sent the false Hahn to prison for life. Like I said, no case ever runs according to type. And sometimes even a set of phony fingerprints will stamp a man a criminal.